Okay, and, you know, I don't know what they've been putting in there lately, but again, you know, they can improve. Because we have to ask ourselves, how do we allow ourselves to be in these kind of magazines? You know, what are we doing? Okay, because none of them would exist unless we would allow ourselves to pose for the photographs. So again, I'm very interested in looking at fibroid disease especially, and prostate disease, because it signifies a race of people who have misused their creative energies. Because the signature of the uterus is the first physical house of creation. That once it is impregnated with the seed, that is the place that it is nurtured until it is strong enough to stand on its own and be able to be born out into the universe, to be able to master it. So if we are impregnating our cosmic womb, which is our mind, with distorted seeds, with aberrant seeds, etc., then why wouldn't our physical womb or our physical mind reflect that? And so I began to look around and I began to realize, well, you know, the signature is obviously true, because as a race of people, we're the only race that does not provide for itself, and we are the only group of women that refuse to direct our seed to do that for us. We have shoes that we are forced to wear that don't fit. We have an educational system that doesn't teach us as the standard. We have clothes that are made that we are forced to wear that don't fit us. You know, we are forced to have foods in our stores that we don't need to eat. We don't have any control over what the store on the corner is going to send us. We should, because we're the only one buying it. But, you know, that's ridiculous. The store, you know, right now with the state of consciousness, the owner of the store would never ask you what you're interested in. Because the situation is that we've gotten to such a point of not understanding how we create, that we let them serve us anything. And we just make do with it. You know, if they decide they're going to cut something out, we don't demand, why did you cut this out without our permission? That's what we want in our store. They can never do it in the Jewish or Oriental or Caucasian neighborhood. But again, the woman is not demanding of herself and her seed to provide for her what she needs. And that is a blatant misuse of one's creative energy. Because if you know you need shoes, then the son should then be stimulated to know that that's his job, that he's going to make some shoes for everybody to wear. And for him to figure that out, how you're going to make shoes for African foot. You know, we need a car to get in. You know, I'm real appalled with the cars that are made by Europeans, because for us, they don't allow us to be who we are. You know, we have to have our headdresses, you know, and I have to lay down in the car. I can't even sit up in the car. When I put on some of my crowns, I mean, it's just horrible. I can't even, it gets knocked off. I mean, it's just so unqueenly. You can't even get in the car, you know, and I'm like, this is ridiculous, you know. I mean, you know, now, Europeans, they don't think anything about regalia on their head, you know, so they're, you know, with them, everything's squashed on top of their head is just fine, because they believe in lax, so they believe in less headroom, less air, if you can get by, wonderful. But that's not our thing. So we know that we need cars that are wider, seated, that are wider, etc. Will we do this? No. We'll run out there and buy a car with somebody who has severe lordosis and try to get our back propped up on the seat created for them and think that we're doing something. That has to stop, and the universe is telling us that if we do not come into our right mind, we will not be allowed to continue to perpetuate this ludicrousness, because you all will be sterilized and then you will die out. So I understand that we're supposed to have a workshop. I have a lot of interesting things to talk about, because there's a wonderful gentleman here. His name is Yashua Barak. He is an African man who is extremely angry with his mother. And this gentleman has taken upon himself to write a book that's entitled Black Men Say Goodbye to Misery and Say Hello to Love. The black man's alternative to the African black woman. And so we have already been written out by brothers, because this book talks about how to make liaisons and to choose Caribbean, Asian, and potentially continental African women as alternative wives, because we are the reason why the African man is in the condition that he is in America. Now, when I read this book, I picked this up at my publisher, and I read this book, I was like, I wanted to bust out in tears, but I was there on business, so I had to hold my repose because I have dedicated my life to do this work for my people, and then I pick up a book where somebody's talking about killing me and taking my life and telling me that I'm worthless. And I said, okay, Jill, what have you been taught? You know, and in my Native American Indian teachings, Kemetic teachings, you always stalk that wants to destroy you. Because in stalking and studying that, you will always find out its weakness and be able to protect yourself. So that's why I thought that I would move on and get this book and study this. And by making sure that I read the book by Ma'atan understanding. Okay, so I understand that the brother here has violated some of the laws of Ma'at. Okay, and that's okay because I'm trying to understand where he was coming from. The premise that he writes this book on is true. That's what's so heavy, is that all the things he says in here is true. It's the conclusion that is incorrect. But the premise is true. And so our support group in Detroit, the women are studying this. And it was very interesting watching the women because the first thing many of them, I'm not going to pay to read a book about somebody talking about I'm nothing. You know, I mean, that doesn't make good sense. And my thing is, well, you wear a shoe that don't fit. And you eat food that's dead, you know, and you do all this other crazy stuff. I mean, now you're going to sit up here and not want to pay for a book that's talking about they're going to take your life or not? I mean, now that is not good sense. But see, that is where we get into with this emotional immaturity. Okay, so you can spend all this money on this kind of stuff that don't have anything to do with nothing, but some serious things, you want to get insulted and get an attitude. Okay, and this is what we have to grow up on. Now, it's interesting because he talks about the brothers in here too. He's got a code in here for them that turns out to sound out to be chumps. Right. So it's the CHUMP stands for something, whatever in here. But he talks about the fact that there's many brothers who definitely are out of order, which is why he feels also that the African woman is out of order. But for whatever reason, he feels that the brothers can regroup themselves where the African woman has so been brainwashed by the Caucasian that we probably will never be able to come back. That's his whole premise. And the key is that a legitimate conclusion? Because how many women do I talk to with uterine fibroids that are on jobs that they hate? They go every day and use a divine life force energy that the Creator has given them to a job that they can't stand, and then they have the nerve to be begging for healing. And it's like, that's impossible, because the universe has already given you the capacity to heal, and you choose to usurp it as something different. You know, why are you over there knowing that you don't have no business being there? Well, I got a car note and the kids to feed and whatever else. And it's like, well, like the Creator can't take care of that. Okay, but again, this is a problem with trust. Okay, it's like, well, you know, I hear some sisters talk about their husband does X, Y, Z, this and that and the other. And it's like, well, you know, what, does he have his own business? You know, and then her thing is like, It's like, we need that study check because this might fall off and, you know, that might die and whatever else. And I'm like, right, well, you know, when that marriage crumbles to the ground, then what is she going to say? Because if you have a husband that's that multi-talented, why would you want him to be in slavery to somebody else instead of investing all his energy into that he can do? So he's got to do 3 jobs, what he's trying to do that he loves, and then you're going to make sure that he stays over there in the European's household for 8 hours a day. No. And I think that Jungle Fever brought that out real clear. You know, that brother had no business even being in that architectural firm. Because this woman should have had him at home on the kitchen table somewhere before he'd have been there. But see, this again goes back to our misuse of our creative energies because we have lost the capacity to trust. And we have definitely lost understanding who's who. And it's the Creator that's who's who, not the Europeans. So, you know, as I watch the organ harvesting, as they call it, or what I call, you know, tissue scavenging projects that they have, and the blood scavenging projects that they have for transfusion, etc. See, none of that is even in our medical system. The idea that you would take somebody else's organs and put them in your body, or take somebody else's blood, is totally alien. And we actually will go and donate our blood. And I'm like, wow, that's deep. You know, and we'll give our organs.